Hey guys, thank you for joining me again for another episode of 5F's to Love podcast. You know, over the past couple of years, and it's been a couple of years, and whoever thought we would be in this transition, I've heard so many conversations about dating, about relationships, and how we're going to handle this transition back to our new norm. And during this time, and I don't know if you're in a situation similar to mine, I live in a home by myself. There's no family here. And I know for me, managing the process was pretty seamless because I'm accustomed to being in this space and managing it. But for a lot of people, it wasn't as seamless. And I also think during this time, we missed a lot of that interaction with one another. So going back out and being able to build those relationships, may they be romantic or non-romantic, is us looking at whether or not we're prepared to do that. And how do we look at those skills and are we going to be effective at it? And so that's what the conversation is about tonight. It's about whether or not we're ready for the transition and preparing ourselves to move forward with dating, with relationships in our new normal. So if you guys have not seen a podcast in a while, you probably have missed Michael. So, hey, Michael, how are you? Oh, Michael, mute yourself for me.
What's up?
How are you? I am so happy to see you. I'm really excited.
I am spectacular. It's good to see you. Good to be present.
I'm excited about tonight's conversation. I'm excited about our guest.
Oh,
She is
absolutely.
she's like a powerhouse. I mean, just overall, Q just really excites me with her conversation. So I'm really excited. I can't wait till she joins us. So our conversation tonight is about the transition, getting back into dating. Um, I don't know, for a lot of people, this is probably going to be a conversation I think a lot of people have had amongst their friends, but I'm hoping that it's really helpful in helping people understand how to manage it because of the things that we've been exposed to while we've been in the transition. Social media numbers have gone up tremendously, three
Mhm.
to 10 times what they were prior to this. So I think it's a great conversation. So Q, welcome aboard. Welcome to the 5S to Love podcast.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Christine. Thank you.
Oh my
Hello,
gosh, I'm so
Michael.
Greetings, Q.
Greetings. Namaste.
okay. Should I be doing that? Namaste.
No.
Yes, ma'am. Namaste.
Because
Blessings to all.
I just want to make sure I properly greet the guest. I don't know, what's happening, but I will properly greet the guest. I'm
That is
always
fine.
learning something new. So cute. I want to say one, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. When we met and we talked, I felt like it was a needed conversation
Mhm.
because we were talking about how people are going to make the transition back into our new normal in
Mm.
dating and what does that look like in relationships. So we're going to go through a gamut of questions just to let you know the people who watch the podcast, they are very interactive. So if
Great,
you're watching the
great.
podcast for the first time, any comments that you put in comments we will post during the podcast. We'll be happy to answer any questions for you while we're on the podcast live tonight. And all of our new viewers who are watching us tonight for the first time, thank you for joining us here at the 5S to Love podcast. So I'm going to say let's dig right in because we have a lot to talk about.
All
So
right.
question number one is, what do you think how do you think people have been managing the solitude during the pandemic? What do you think that's looked like for people? And Q, I'll start with you.
Well, I would think that the solitude could have went either one or two ways. Either you were in solitude and you came up with a lot of negative excuses to why you were in solitude. To me, the other side of it is, what are you going to do with that solitude? How are you going to take this time that you have available, which is a lot of time? During that time, what are you going to do with it? And so I know personally for me, when I was in solitude, I took a lot of time to self reflect um, over the year prior and the year moving forward. And what could I do to better myself with this downtime?
Okay.
So I've done a lot of things. I've gotten more spiritually aware. I learned how to meditate. I got a better diet going on for myself. So I managed to be able to get in shape and lose a substantial amount of weight, just being focused on myself. Me being a single mom of 3 and a divorcee of 5 years, all I had
Oh my
is
God, Q, did you use the word divorcee? I'm gonna say I love that. I heard it on Seinfeld just the other day when she says I'm a
yes,
divorcee. I love that. I was like, I need an
yeah,
intro. Like
yeah.
Michael, what could I call myself?
I'm
What could I
sorry, I couldn't hear you, dear.
No, I was asking Michael, what could I call myself? I can't say divorcee. What could I say? Because I like that. I'm a divorcee. Like, what can I say? I don't know. I need an opening. If anybody has any
What do you?
ideas? I need an opening because when she said it on Seinfeld, that was what's the name's mom. She says, "Well, I'm a divorcee." He says, "No, you're not. You're not a divorcee." But when you just said it, it had a little pop to it. Like you want to do the shoulder like that, something like that. Like,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah. I'm a
divorcee.
divorcee. I'm divorced, but I'm not bitter. Life goes on.
Exactly. I
You
love that.
know.
So you know
Yeah.
what, Q? I think a lot of people went through that transition where they were like, we're gonna work out. And I'm gonna say Michael and I was really focused on working out. I don't know if we put the same effort that you committed to the workout, but we definitely, put in a great, try. I mean,
Hmm.
Michael, what about you? What do you think? How do you think people have been what have they been thinking and what have they done in the solitude to manage it? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think initially it was dismal. It was restrictive. It was, all of those things because we didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to
Hmm.
happen, how long it was
Hmm.
going to be. So it
Hmm.
was, it was depressing. And also, I think there was a feeling of uncertainty because it was
Yeah.
literally, we didn't, the president at the time didn't really help, but there was just so much uncertainty, so much, unrest that you were literally like kind of, sitting by the seat of your pants, trying to figure out what to do next. And
Hmm.
I like the fact that along with a lot of people, my birthday happened to be coming. My birthday was in May,
Yes.
and I normally celebrate my birthday with my group of friends. And so we kind of uh, agreed to, be together to do things together.
Hmm.
We kind of, monitored, self-monitored what the other one was doing, and we created this like a bubble where we would still have interaction. We still, visited each other's homes.
Hmm.
We still celebrated our birthdays together. But it you had to be really creative. Like I started singing again. I found, all kind of apps and I started
Yeah, you just
a
finding
business.
you coming into your higher self
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
and
have that time to dedicate to yourself.
So
Yeah.
but you do realize a lot of people really did not know how to guide themselves through that process. So
yeah,
look at it from this perspective. If you were a person who was accustomed to going to work, you hit the bars, you hit the clubs. So it's from 5:30, 6 o'clock to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. You're like a social butterfly and you were accustomed to that. But now that whole thing is now removed.
Hmm.
So
hmm
now you no longer have that social butterfly moment, and now you're consumed with really yourself, or
Yeah.
yeah,
limited to a few people.
Hmm.
So I think for me, I'm not a big social butterfly, but I
yeah.
tell you what, Michael and I used to go over to our favorite place, Empire, every Friday. We had reserved seating at the bar. And
Hmm.
the minute this shut down, the first thing I was like was, "It's Friday. There's no Empire." Like I was devastated.
We did- yeah,
It's
You know,
real. It's going
so that's
on.
the thing. I think,
Yeah.
people miss that interaction, and that was really big. Now, one thing I will say is during this transition, not initially, but the more we got into the year, there was a huge increase in the number of suicides.
hmm
And those were not only adults. And
Yeah.
so that was one of the things that, I think when you started out, you were lonely initially, looking for love, looking for a relationship, looking to spend your time with someone. But then now all of a sudden all those doors are closed. So of course
Hmm.
the dating apps they skyrocketed.
Skyrocket.
People were joining these dating sites, meeting people. So my question to you guys is, when you look at the number over the past 2 years of the number of people who committed suicide and how people are managing this transition, what role do you think the dating sites played in this whole dramatic moment? And I say that, and I'm going to put in a disclaimer. One, I'm not against dating sites. And by the way, the 5 F's to Love dating app will be out in May. So again, I'm not against dating sites. Thank you very much. I'm not against dating sites. But my question is, what role do you think they play? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not on any dating sites. I don't think that's for me. But when you meet a person like this, right? And you can pretend to be whoever you want to be for that 45 minutes a day. Like you could sit in that corner, Q, and you're like a beautiful woman. And for all we know, your kids are chained up upstairs. We don't know.
Right. Because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Absolutely.
You don't know, but because you're so eager to be loved and be given that attention, you're kind of like, okay, well, I like this person. And you start telling a lot of personal business, like your personal life.
Yeah.
And then I know for sure, and Mike, you can chime in. I know several women and men who gave up money to people, you know, because they bought in because they were so lonely. And that happened to a lot of people. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Well, and Mike, we'll start with you, Michael, because you have stories to tell.
Do tell, Michael.
Oh, by the way, if you're a first-time viewer, just grab a glass of wine. We drink the entire time throughout the show.
Hey,
just grab wine.
We can do a cheers. I have mine. Let's go.
I love that wine.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's my favorite wine.
Exactly.
But being a participant in the dating apps, I think that it had a lot to do overall with the question, a lot to do with the person's mentality, because I'm not seen as that like social butterfly type person, but with my group of friends, I was, and it was out of like, let's say, necessity is the mother of invention. We came up with creative ways to stay in contact. Like we were doing the Zoom meetings before the Zoom meetings, but Zoom has a app called House Party.
Yes.
You can play games. You can do interaction. All kind of card games. Scrabble. I think Monopoly's on there now. Uno. So we were doing those things when somebody who couldn't make the party, that's how we would invite them in. So we kind of just continued that. With dating, it was tricky at first because you don't know that person initially, but it just required like a little bit more in-depth conversation. It wasn't so much, I'll say, for considering my audience, it wasn't so much like the hit it and quit it type of thing, but there was more conversation.
Michael, wait a minute. Why did you edit that? Why did you say because of the audience?
Because you say I reveal too much, so I don't want to.
Okay. I'm with you.
Get kicked off.
I get it now. Okay, I'm with you. All right.
And so, but as time progressed, now it's on there. It's like vax, all 3 vaccinations. Have my shots. This is that and the other. And so we kind of adapted to the times, and that's again for out of necessity that people who are doing it and who are want to be safe. Those are just the precautions that you take. And if you're not willing to do that, you don't listen your vaccinations or whatever's going on with you, that's an automatic red flag.
So wait a minute. Are you serious? Are you telling me that online dating went to whether or not you could prove you were vaccinated before?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, vaccinated. When did you get your shot? When were you last tested? Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, I just think that's alarming. And I will tell you this, I was asked out a couple times during COVID, and I said to the person, anytime you can meet somebody and they breathe on you and you could possibly die, I'm not open to meeting. I'm sorry. It's just not an option. When death is on the table, it's not an option. Okay, guys, just give me a second. We got to go to commercial break. And as I always say, before we go to commercial break, we have to make sure we support the people who support our podcast. guys, welcome back. And if you didn't notice, I'm in love with the idea of love. Reason being because it's nothing like being in an amazing relationship with someone who truly cares for you and loves you no matter what. I feel like people can soar and achieve just about anything when they know they have that support of that person and has their back. So that's the reason why I'm in love with love. So back to the show. Michael, what you were saying is in the online dating world, not only do you have to not only list your STD status now, you got to list your COVID status.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm clear at this point. I'm open to any marriage proposals for anyone who can forward those two items of clearances because I don't like this and I'm not good with dating. So I just want to be clear. I don't know about you, Q. I'm just throwing it out there because this makes me nervous.
Minimum. That's the bare minimum.
That's
You
the
have
bare
to at
minimum.
least come with that.
So basically what you're saying is when I sit down now, with somebody, I need to say, I'm sorry, can I see your paperwork?
Yeah. And then too, it was funny because it was going around what you could do sexually and not contract COVID. That was another thing as well. Chris. But that was another thing as well. It's like it was called the sex workers guide to work guide or something like that during the pandemic. And so there were certain things that you could do.
Wait a minute. What is it called? The sex workers guide?
Now.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna need another hour, Christine, for this one.
The sex workers guide?
Yes, there's a sex workers guide.
So now I'm taking advice from sex workers?
Yeah.
No, it's what the CDC put out for sex workers, just to remain safe.
The CDC is advising sex workers? Is
Yeah.
it called the sex workers guide?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
gosh. So basically I should be using that as my checklist to how to communicate effectively with people.
Well, I mean, now we're vaccinated, but there's still some things that that you can do, in the moment to avoid contracting.
Okay, so
everyone needs a plan to fit their situation, right?
Okay, but when we say in the moment, like what are you saying? Because my thing is, how do you protect yourself from COVID in the moment? I mean, you can't condom your mouth.
No, but oral sex is okay. Oral sex was okay.
So you're saying you can't check COVID from the release of fluids from that area? Okay.
No, because that's when we found out it was an airborne virus. It's lungs, mouth, and nose. It's not transmitted through bodily fluids. But yeah, it was really interesting.
So you're giving or receiving oral sex and there's no kissing involved? No,
because you're wearing masks, so you got your mask on. But for the sex worker, again, it's not an actual date. Okay. But people who apply those.
Well, maybe that's why I'm not a sex worker, because I do not live by those criteria. You have to kiss me before you kiss me. Let's just say that.
Well, that was not happening during the. That wasn't happening during the COVID.
I was gonna say during COVID, it was deadly to throw out kisses like
look,
that.
We can, I can help you. You can help me, but none of that happened.
Yeah,
it wasn't any of that happening. Okay, so listen, my question number 2 to you guys is: with the transition back into our new norm, do you think the idea of relationships and meeting someone has shifted? And if so, how? How do you think it shifted?
Oh, well, I would say it shifted significantly because we've had freedom snatched from us, and most people who are single like to go out and mingle. So when that was snatched away from us, there was no one to mingle with. So it went back to that social media platform or that dating website that you went to try to connect with someone.
Right.
I believe it was very difficult, just for me personally, being a divorcee, but even being single. I was just getting around that time to where I wanted to kind of get out and start to socialize and mingle a little bit. And then,
are you mean like during COVID or prior?
It was just before COVID hit, so I had just mentally got myself ready.
So what was your
after
plan?
being divorced, that I was ready to put myself out there again.
Okay,
and start
I'm asking you. So, like, what was your plan? How were you going to approach the concept of dating? What was your plan?
So at that moment, the only thing available was the dating websites or social media.
No. I mean, prior to that, before COVID hit.
Prior to
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I was just pretty much observing everyone. I wasn't quite ready to be out there yet.
Okay. So you're kind of testing the waters.
I was testing the waters,
Okay.
mind you, coming off from divorce. So I'm being very particular and safe about my choices and
Okay,
who
when
I
you say
choose to bring
safe,
into my circle.
right. But let me ask you a question. When you say safe, are you asking the sex workers questions, pre the CDC recommendations that Mike mentioned? Or are you just basically like, when you say safe from craziness or any type of sexual context, or like what, like when you say safe?
I would say across the board, safe from the crazies, safe with who I feel that I'm opening up my inner self to. Do I feel comfortable enough to do that? Being safe, just making sure that I'm not exposing myself to the wrong individual.
I like
And
that.
yes, I would absolutely ask the street worker or the sex worker questions, but my approach would be differently. We could be having a conversation and I would throw something in like, so, have you been dating or have you been vaccinated yet? How do you feel about being mandated to vaccinate? How do you feel about that? So what I do is just kind of throw a question out there just to get the response from the other person without pretty much telling what I've done personally for myself. I
Right.
just want to see if we have anything in common with that. And so asking those questions, sometimes
So,
I've
but wait,
gotten,
let me ask you. If a guy said no, he had not been vaccinated because he felt like, he was good, he didn't need it. I mean, what does that look like for you? Is that like a walk away moment?
definitely no. I would say no, because once again, I do believe that we all as human beings have a right to choose. And just because you don't get the vaccine doesn't necessarily mean you're going to catch it. But what are you doing in the process to prevent yourself from catching it? So that's the question.
It's the preventative. All
It's a
right. So I
preventative.
love that. So Allison Walker said, I would like to think it did. The pandemic made me realize how precious life is. I won't waste time on nonsense. Allison,
Boom.
thank you so much for joining us on the 5F's to Love podcast. And I'm going to say to you, I totally agree. For me, I think the transition back into our new norm, and I say this from this perspective because, again, I talk to a lot of people every day about a lot of different things. And because of this podcast, people tend to think I'm some relationship expert. And thank you for that vote of confidence. I appreciate that. People reach out to me all the time. I think it's amazing. But for me, I think because men and women have engrossed themselves in pornography, they've engrossed themselves in online dating, a lot of it moving a little bit fast, right? That I think the transition back into our new norm is going to be a little sketchy for people. And I only say that because just in my brief conversations with different people whom I've been introduced to during this time, their expectations were very unrealistic. I mean, they asked for things that I thought was way out of the ballpark.
Like
Like, oh, really, Michael? Is that what we're doing? We're putting it out on the street? Fine, put it on the street,
Let's
Michael.
put it
Let's
out
put my
there. Let's
business
go
in the
for it.
street. Fine.
Dog.
People ask me for pictures that I thought were just, I wouldn't send you a picture.
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with you.
That's the most famous one.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't to put your business out there, but because it was when I came around to me, that's what I was going to talk about, because it just really briefly, the pandemic made dating in some sense, traditional dating, boring, because everything is so fast. It was literally like you were, wanting pictures, wanting there was it's like little to no like conversation, and even trying to pace the conversation, it required a person, definitely like I said, who was on your page, but
right.
There was the pressure to like figure out like what is it that you really want, because the questions are coming. It's almost like you were rapid fire questions, like bam, 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 pictures, bam, and so you trying to, well, what do you do for work? Like, why do you want to know what I do for work? Like, are we getting together or not? And so it
just
made
a way to kind of break the ice,
yeah. And I used to be really, I used to love, I mean, I still do. I like, conversation, but, I have to like adjust myself to, like, this is not online. You have to, you reference, going out. Well, let's go, go meet for drinks. It's like, well, why? Like, and so like, even like listening to you talk about it, I'm like, wow, that feels boring. And it's like, it makes regular normal dating seem boring. And I was on
But
another.
that's what I think. I think that's what the problem's going to be. I think people are so sexually queued up that everything now moves towards human contact because we're so thirsty for
Yeah.
human contact
To have it,
that we
Yeah.
skip over. I need to get to know you first. It's like I just want to touch you. I just want to be near you.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I'm very cautious about my space and who I invite in my space.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not going to make it in this new norm. I don't think I'm going to make it because I'm not going to change or shift. I'm still old school dating. I like the courtship.
See, that's me. I
really do.
love
I
the
like that.
courtship about it. And that's why online dating was never a thing for me, because I'm a more of a personal person.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because what I do for a living, I'm a socialite. So I like to be in your presence. I like to have all of my five senses enhanced.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And nothing does anything for me but having my sense of smell, smelling your cologne, my sense of taste. Are you bringing a wonderful dinner to the table?
Oh, when you said taste, I didn't know what was coming after that. I got to go.
Well,
I
it
did,
all
Q.
depends, on whatever it is you have an
I
appetite
was
for, I
like,
would say.
what is Q about to say about taste after the smell? I didn't know.
Well,
I didn't think you were going to say
we
food.
can be taste, have the imagination to taste,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
Okay, so Q, let me ask you a question because this was thrown at me at a random. This was a random.
Okay.
And let me just be clear, this was just a random. When I say random, I mean I don't know this person and I rarely talk to this person. But again, I think this transition going back to our new norm, the person said to me, just in casual conversation, as if he said, do you want me to go to the store and pick up some milk for you? Right?
Yeah.
The person said to me, I really want to taste your entire body. And I was like, I'm sorry, we were just talking about what happened. Like,
I'll get to that. Carry on.
I was like, what happened? I didn't know what was happening. So I said, I'm sorry. What I was trying to say, he says, no, did you hear what I said? I said, not really. So, okay. But the thing is, I didn't know how to respond to that. Now, in his mind, I'm very sure he thought that was provocative. That would tantalize me to ask more questions.
Mm-hmm.
To be like,
he was telling you what he wanted. He was
exactly.
vulnerable.
And you know what you should have said, Christine? You should have said that the milk must be for a milk bath. And if you want to taste all of me, that means you're going to drink it afterwards.
CQ, I'm sorry. I'm not that clever.
Okay.
I was just like,
you can drink all that bath water, honey. All the milk and all of me with it.
See, I didn't see.
And if you can handle
I love that about
I may
you.
give you a dessert if I can see you can manage that.
You know what, Michael? If I was Q, I would have had all the answers, obviously. But I'm going to say I'm not Q. So I kind of ended the conversation on, you know what? You are such a funny person. Like, where do you come up with this stuff? And I kind of shifted it away from that because I didn't know what to say. Yeah. So Allison came back and Allison says, I would like to think I did. This pandemic made me realize, I'm sorry. She already posted. I'm sorry. That was enough. She had already posted that. I'm sorry. It popped up again as if Allison had posted again. So I'm going to say, you guys, those kind of conversations is what I'm concerned about, is that people being so direct, men and women. And I'll be honest with you, I've actually talked to a couple of my male friends, and women have really just come straight out and just like, look, this is what I want.
Oh, the women are more direct. Where the women are more direct, more than ever. I think a lot of this time has allowed us, mostly as just being a woman, how... I mean, I guess when we're out in the world every day before this pandemic happened, you're used to, if you're a woman, you're an attractive woman. So you're used to the guys coming up to you every day, all throughout the day. So it's because it's a part of your norm, right? So all of a sudden, when that is taken away from you and you're like, well, wait a minute, well, where's everyone else? And then you kind of start to question yourself.
Exactly.
And is it me? And do I
Is
look
it
good
me?
today? Do I smell good? Is it my hair? Is it the fragrance I'm wearing? What is it?
Exactly.
And you start to become insecure in some ways because you're looking for a certain validation that was of the norm that is not a part of the new norm.
And that's, I'm going to tell you, as soon as we get back, that's exactly where we're going to pick up. What's a part
Okay.
of the new norm? And so, again,
Okay.
you guys, we've got to go to commercial because I have to make sure that we compliment the people who actually provide sponsorship for the 5S to Love podcast.
You a bad bitch? Are you a bad bitch? Are you a bad bitch? Is you a savage? Well, whether you are a bad bitch or a savage or whatever you want to call yourself, I am here to talk to you today about a book called Bad Bitches and Perfect Pitches that is authored by Precious Williams. One of the biggest differences between you and your competition in any facet of your life is the fact that they know how to effectively communicate and you don't. See, in this world, you don't have to be the smartest, you don't have to be the prettiest, you don't have to have the most money, but you do have to be able to sell yourself. Now, Precious Williams comes from the inner city of St. Louis, and she, in her book, has shown you how to elevate your life by using the gift of gab. Now, Precious Williams' book has been featured on Forbes, CNN, LinkedIn, Black Enterprise, and more. It can be found at www.perfectpitches by Precious. Now go ahead and buy today so you can be on your way to being a bad bitch.
Remember when we said we'd stay together now until forever? Just us, just us. Said we wouldn't be like all the others, fight and hurt each other. Not us, not us. But we let each other down, 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 down. Yeah, we let each other down, 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 down. This shouldn't be us. What came between us? When did we become like them? We weren't supposed to break up, but it's too late to make up. Don't know what my heart will mend. No, this should not be us, not be us, not be us. This should not be us, not be us, not be.
Okay, guys, welcome back. And so we're going to start off with our questions from our viewers. Our first question is from Gertrude, and thank you so much for joining the 5Fs to Love podcast. She says, I was asked to go out to dinner, and before I could answer the question, the individual stated he wanted to know if we would go to my house after dinner, or should we go to his? My response was, no, we are not going to dinner or anything else. I walked away with a smile. I mean, Gertrude, we didn't cut right to the chase. We just
Gertrude she wasn't playing. She said, listen, it's not that type of party.
It's not that type of party. And that's what concerns me. People are just going right in. And so Anissa says, I completely agree. The pace of dating has accelerated to a point where it can make me uncomfortable. It tells me that we are, incompatible. And I think a lot of people are just rushing right in and just trying to make stuff happen. And, so Allison said, right, she 100% agrees. And so does Gertrude. So the thing is that I think this transition into our new norm, we're really going to have to kind of, how can I say this, retrain people to slow it down. Like I think with social media and everything that's been going on with that, it's like we're looking at it and we're not understanding,
You just
what's
put the
happening.
nail in the coffin when you said social media.
So there you go. So my question is, what are your thoughts around the role social media and commercialization of relationships has played on how we think and feel about relationships moving forward? And I asked that question. One is, here's my disclaimer. I'm not against the online blind date shows and Bachelor and all of that stuff.
Yeah, to each his own.
But the thing is that we found time and time again, that's very unrealistic. Who meets somebody and you're on one side of the mirror, they're on the other side of the mirror. You never see the person until you ask them to marry you. Dude, I'm not marrying anybody and I'm on the other side of the mirror. Not in reality, not in that reality, not in any reality.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you guys think? And in social media itself, people have, I'm for a better word, and I'm sorry I don't have a better word than this. People have pimped themselves. Like the nudity, the level of nudity in skin in social media, honey, you don't need to watch porn. The
And
game
that's the
has been upped
thing.
in
And that's
social
the thing.
media.
It's like with social media, it's like we're all in competition with social
Yeah.
media. You know, you have your man, you have your lady, but yet you go on to, let's just say, TikTok, and you see that beautiful woman, you know, that just turns you on, you know what I mean? And vice versa. The lady is sitting right next to him and she's looking at that guy or those group of guys who's really clean with the suits on and groomed
Mhm.
well and nice automobiles and homes. And she's looking like, So she's looking at him like, step your game up, honey. You know,
Exactly.
so that could go both ways. Either they're going to argue about it or they're going to see something within themselves with each
Mhm.
other that they can bring to some type of medium to bring some excitement. But I think being
Mhm.
single, it's even harder because it's like what you're not willing to give, someone else out there is willing to accept it because of the time that we're in.
But
We're
what
very
about the Gertrude
minimized.
point? What about what Gertrude said? He asked her on a date and immediately went to, where are we going after dinner? Like that's what I mean. Like social
Yeah,
media
because in
and
his
dating
mind,
has
see
shifted.
Well,
that man, I wouldn't even call him a gentleman because he was not making a statement like that towards a
Right.
lady. But I would say he just came out with this attitude of I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna see who I can get and bring home tonight. He he's already letting her know that he's not looking for something serious. He's looking to have an itch scratched.
Well,
Um,
okay, wait a minute, it's so cute, but what if he's a guy who's been locked down and so he's adjusted his form of communication? He really is looking for a serious relationship. But to your point, he's so thirsty for that type of companionship, he's not doing it. I mean, Mike, we talk about this. It
he should
doesn't
have
mean that you're
practiced his
not.
approach
well,
first, I would think.
yeah,
Because you
I,
can't take back once you release it and put it out into the universe, you can't take it back.
You can take
So
it
yeah,
you
back.
know how we as ladies, we look in the mirror before we step out just to make sure is my hair right, is my
Mhm.
lipstick right. We're not going to go out and make sure we're out there first and then say, oh, let me check my drag. You always want to check beforehand to make sure you're
But
representing
Q, a lot
yourself.
of people don't have those etiquette skills. I'm gonna tell you, Mike and I have been out way before the pandemic. Mike, and you go ahead and comment, but people were doing inappropriate things then. I mean, Mike, you go ahead.
well, I will say, as I don't, it's not all. I say, I'm trying not to look at it all in a negative light. I think that because I was, we're taught as children and Christian, raised in a Christian home, that pornography basically desensitizes you,
Mhm.
and so it would, being around in the ministry and speaking with a lot of husbands who are watching porn, they begin to request things from their spouses that the girl in the videos were doing,
Yeah.
and so and then it became a lot cruder. They would talk to her, differently. So with this heightened quote unquote sensitivity, um, the I think the plus side of it is that you do, when a person tells you that this is what they want, that is what they want. Now they may not be able to do it with as a gentleman or with decorum, but the heightened sensitivity has made people a lot more comfortable in expressing who they are.
Yeah.
You just have to know who it is that you are and what you want as well. So with that
Exactly.
heightened sensitivity, you should have come into a space where you're comfortable expressing that this is who I am. I am, I'm a lady. I enjoy conversation. I enjoy cocktails. This is what I enjoy. And so now you have to be able to stand in your own space and not
Mhm.
sort of be overwhelmed by the thirsty, because the thirsty have always been there. They're just now,
It's the
And
display
I
of it.
like
It's the
that.
display of the thirstiness now that
yeah,
makes it
they've
different.
Michael, did
always
you
been there,
say
just
the
empowered.
thirsty?
The
Is
thirsty.
that what's happening? The
Yeah,
thirsty?
they're just
Well, I'm
they're
gonna
Yeah.
tell you,
I think
Gertrude.
everybody's pretty thirsty, but I
Right.
guarantee you there is someone that is not like Gertrude that would have jumped at his
yeah,
Well,
his
I'm going to tell
command.
you,
absolutely.
Gertrude made it very clear. She said, yes, his itch was acting up, but I was not the one who was going to soothe it. And I'm with you, Gertrude, on that. Allison said social media is killing the art of getting to know a person. And
It
I'm
is.
gonna 100% agree with that because I'm still,
I don't think that. I think that it's just sped it up. It's not.
Michael, are you
Don't look at it in
serious?
yeah, because I think that, like I said, you like I don't I've never been like the person that talks, but now I'm doing podcasts and people know a lot more about my sexuality and I prefer them too. But
Courtesy of me, thank you.
it helped to speed up that process. And like I said, I had there's audiences that enjoy hearing me talk, but that's something that probably would not have happened had it not been for the pandemic. So it's not necessary. It's just about being able to keep up with who we've become. And so in keeping up with who I've become, I have to be more forthright in saying this is what I'm accepting, this is what I'm not accepting. It's not, a knock against you because that person is coming into their own and he's probably never, ask a woman to do, a video or for pictures. It's like that was unheard of. But now that's like a handshake. I mean, even kids in high school are talking about it. And so if kids in high school are dealing with it, as adults who have some knowledge of what it was like before, it's like a blending. Like you have to be able to. It's like if you were talking to your kids about it, like this is not something that you don't do, and you also have to put the caveat in there that if you do this, these are the repercussions that could come
along with that,
because you think, nobody's going to see it, and
to everything.
Yeah, like you're on television or you're a news anchor now, and they're passing around pictures that you showed, some boy,
and there you are.
And there you are, and but it's kind of like all encompassing. But I think that social media, it pushed us forward, and now we kind of have to deal with the aftermath. That was in 3 years.
It
3
was.
years that this happened, and so it's going to take some time to kind of level out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it needs to said now that more than ever, you have to teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. And that's why, it's going to be a lot of pushback. And I think because initially before this happened, I think people had unrealistic expectations. Somebody said to me the other day, a really good friend of mine said that everybody looks alike. Every woman I see looks like the next woman. And that's the thing. So you assume a lot of women and men, not just women, men have modified their looks to match this common standard, I think, of what they feel attractiveness is based on commercialization and social media. And because of that, you see, in a great example is Kanye. No one knew that wasn't Kim because she looked just like Kim. So there's like a gazillion lookalikes out there. Right. So in his mind, he's just replacing one Kim for another Kim.
Yeah.
Right. And so what women and men have done is they've identified what caricature they can transform themselves into, and they become that caricature, because to them that means that more people are going to accept me in that space. And so what I'm saying is that when you find somebody like me who's totally rogue, I'm a roguer, I'm not going to fit in that norm. I like being me. I think I'm a total rock star. The
beauty of social media is that you will find, it takes a minute, but you will find that group that are all about that. And that's what I was saying is like, it's just, you have to wait it out and, and kind of go through that. Like that's with you were always talking about, getting likes and increasing your social media following. That is one of the tried and true things it's brutal honesty. It's, I don't always look like this. This is not my hair, whatever the name for the wig that day is, or, I don't, dress like this. This is not my car. That was my car. I lost it last week, whatever happened, whatever the case may be. Right. And that's how you figure out, who is for you when the likes are genuine or whatever. And that's how you build your audience. And so it's kind of the same thing in teaching people how to treat you. And when you do that, obviously the thirsty, they're not going to stick around. They may be drawn and attracted and they're going to flirt. But as you're teaching them how to treat you, they're going to fall. That's going to fall. Some aspects of that, I'll say in general, that personality type is going to fall away. And you'll be left with, what's genuinely attracted, to you.
So with that being said, Michael, with you being a man, you're a very attractive professional man that we all could see. But during that COVID, that pandemic, you weren't able to get to your barber, right? Like you usually would. for him to trim you up and clean that head and trim that beard, and probably within a month or two you were looking like Wolfman Jack. I'm pretty much sure, right?
Yeah.
Did women in your life or anyone around you treat you differently based on your appearance?
Yes, I did.
Even though they knew what you were capable of, but you didn't look like the Michael that everyone was used to seeing.
Yes.
Yes,
right?
I did.
Yeah.
I
You
talked
had an
about
edgy
him
side
often.
to you.
Wait, let me point the camera right.
So
That
Q,
lady up there.
just to be clear, yes, I did treat him very indifferent, and I told him to get it together.
No, you did not.
I told him I refused to hang out with him in the street. Just you gotta tighten it up. No, but I'm only kidding. I think Mike is always
a little bit.
Like he's always very well groomed. So,
but I've been like a free spirit. I'll do the beard. I'll cut it off and got the little. I'm always like experimenting. And so, but like I said, when I was doing my music videos, certain people liked the beard and certain people didn't like the beard. And so I just and that's why I said you have to understand who it is that you are, because I don't mind. I'm more of a free spirit, so it didn't bother me. But if some guys say, well, you don't like the beard, you don't like me. It's like, no, it's just the beard. You can.
Michael, wait a minute. Michael, a really good friend of ours who grew a beard, and everyone has told him how ridiculous he looks, but he's still
oh, no way. They
let me tell you something. Q, he's a very handsome guy. Without the beard, he's extremely handsome. But he said, this is my pandemic look. I'm going with it. He conditions it. He keeps it all, but it doesn't look good on him. They call him the Black Santa Claus. And
I mean, is he trimming it? Is he grooming it to where it's like
no? He thinks it's a style because he's letting it grow a certain way, but it's not attractive. But I'm going to say this. I will say this. I think people should do what they want to do when they're comfortable in that space, right? And so I'm not picking them.
To me,
you should
take me as I am.
Well, take me as I am, but if you're getting a lot of pushback from the female population that's saying this doesn't look good and that's what you're attracting, then you might want to take a look at that. Okay, so guys, we got to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after our commercials here at the 5 F's to Love.
I gotta tell you something I could do. I could be running around chasing you, but I won't, 'cause I got better.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the 5 F's to Love podcast. So before we left our last episode, we were talking about basically Michael being handsome and being well groomed and him being accepted with his various looks. I'm only kidding. Michael's always handsome. He always looks really great. And so we have our guest Q, and Q, I'm just going to say that you are exceptionally well maintained. I don't know what happened over the quorum, but I'm going to tell you my hairstyle changed. I usually wear it flipped up, and I did get a lot of comments when I went back to wearing it like this. People were like, oh, your hair looks nice. It's different. I just want to say, like, I really appreciate it, but honey, this is it. You only get 2 looks with me. Like I so you got to be prepared because you only get 2 looks. So our last question for tonight is, what do you think people have transitioned into the number of likes versus liking themselves? And I say this because a lot of people, again, they put so much out in social media to get people's attention. They're going for likes. And it's so funny because people think because I do this podcast and then I have another one I do on Wednesday that's different. And because of what I do publicly, I don't look for likes.
Right.
I like what I do, and I know what I do. You know, I want it to be quality and be supportive to people, but I'm not looking for likes. Like, I'm never going to take off my clothes to get 1,000 likes.
Right.
One, I don't think anybody wants to see me naked. I don't think that's going to get me. I think that's going to lose me some likes.
Oh, there's somebody
negative.
out there that wants to. I'm
It's
sure.
going to be like, I don't think anybody's ever seen a negative out there, but it would be like a negative 1,000
No.
likes. Or
You're
something
way
like
too
that.
hard
I
on
don't know.
yourself, Miss Christine. Way too hard on yourself.
There's a whole episode about that on Euphoria, but go ahead.
Is
So
it?
that's
What-
another
what-
show, huh, Michael?
Yeah,
Michael,
That's another
what's on you for? And I see, you know, so many
it's a
people.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's a high school setting. There's a young girl who gets into lack of a better word, BBW, big, beautiful, sexy woman. But she gets involved in porn.
Big, beautiful
because-
something.
Yeah, and the guys are attracted to her because of her size.
Okay, so listen, everybody, disclaimer: Christina's not doing porn. I don't know what Mike came in with that. That's never going to happen.
Well, you just saying, like, you keep saying,
Right.
like, nobody gonna want nobody. And they,
Y'all might have a negative likes, but I'm going to
You're
say this:
true.
a lot of women did go through a lot of modifications during the pandemic in preparation for the come out, and men did too. I just want to be clear: a lot of men got some cosmetic surgery as well. Everything from implants to getting their pecs peculated, all of that lipo sucked out. They got tightened up too. But what I'm saying is that when we think about us doing those things for the number of likes, and I say that only because I've seen so many women my age, 50 and up, doing some things that I thought in a normal environment you never would have done it. Like, you would not have done it, and you're putting yourself out there. So number one, it's like looking at whether or not you're prepared to make that transition back into dating. I don't know what it looks like for me because I'm not a big dater. I just want to be clear and totally honest. I'm not. I wasn't before this. Before the pandemic, I wasn't. The highlight of every week was meeting Mike at Empire. We would have drinks. I would get a beautiful pizza made from the chef over there. I miss you, Pierre. And I just want to say, Pierre, I told you.
I was having a flashback.
I know, right? Because I told Pierre I would be his sponsor. He could move to the United States. He was an Italian. He made pizzas originally over in Italy. And he made them from scratch, and they were so good. And I told that little Italian I would be your sponsor. Okay, the pizza was so good. And I loved him, but I miss Empire. But the thing is that when you look at the big picture, we've all got to start getting prepared to go back, right? And I think men have unrealistic expectations, just like women do. I think women are going out like, I want this type of guy, and I'm not going for anything less. If the pandemic hasn't shown me this, it shown me I'm not settling. Well, the thing is that it's not about settling. It's about being realistic. Are you prepared for everything that's going to come with that ideal guy or that ideal woman that you think is out there waiting for you? Because a look doesn't guarantee that you're going to get common sense, compassion, love, genuine integrity.
I think my approach to dating now is to be open, to have an open mind, to tend to step out of the box a little bit. You know, as humans, we love to stay in our comfort zone.
Okay, but what do you mean when you say step out of the box? What kind of box are you stepping
out of the box? Meaning your box of comfort. Like, you're used to being in this box, and inside of that box, you're comfortable, you're secure, you're everything you want to be for yourself. But as soon as you're challenged to step outside the box, you don't feel comfortable because you're not ready to accept what the world has to give, or you're not ready to receive what the world thinks of you. And
like
so
that sex workers checklist, like that.
Yeah, I mean,
are you ready to use the sex workers checklist at this point?
No, I wouldn't say I'm ready to use the sex workers checklist, but I do have my own personal sexual checklist, I would say.
Oh, do you know what? Maybe do I need a checklist for that? I don't know.
I think we all should have a checklist.
I'm just saying, because you're a divorcee. I love that you're a divorcee.
I am.
And I just want to say for our viewers who just joined the conversation, obviously you can tag Q as a divorcee, and Michael introduced
single and ready to mingle.
Okay, there you go. Anyone who's interested, she's single, ready to mingle. You can DM.
And I am fully
to-
vaccinated, by the way.
Okay, and
Fully
again,
vaccinated.
Fully
Michael,
vaccinated.
Michael brought out through the CDC. It's called the Sex Workers Checklist. Okay, CDC put this out for sex workers so that you can ask the right questions now. It's not just about STDs, it's about COVID. So again, and how to keep yourself safe from COVID. So anyone who's going back out to dating, I'm going to say a week ago, I hung out with one of the co-hosts on the 5Fs to Love Real Talk with Ladies. And Roz and I met up at this bar that we frequent, before. It's not that big of a deal. But people were in that space as if COVID never happened. And I mean, there were no masks. People were just kind of like hanging out, talking over your food, your drink.
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
thinking to myself, I'm going through convulsions at this point because I have my mask on and
You're
I'm
freaking out, of course.
I am totally freaking out.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to myself, the reality of this, how many people are going to ignore not only the cautions prior to this, which was STDs, and now they're going to just totally ignore the COVID situation.
Lots have continued to live as if the pandemic has not affected them at all.
You know what? And I'm going to say and I think that's true. Carolyn, thank you so much for watching. She said external validation has always been important to many. For the younger generation and those who have typically received the validation in person, likes have become a surrogate. And I totally agree with you. I think
She's
people
100%
looking for the
right.
light.
I 100% agree with that.
I mean, and I guess I'm not that person. I walk out the door, and if nobody likes what I have on, I'm still thinking, in my mind, I'm hearing my song. She's a bad girl. Ooh, a bad girl. Hey, I hear that song the whole time. Like, what?
House playing for my theme song.
What?
Look, with the bonnet on, though. Listen, with a bonnet. No lashes.
Oh my gosh,
because I work from home, so I'm on my lunch break, and I wanna run to Tarjay's to pick up some milk, but not for the bath.
Did you see how she said Tarjay?
And but I'm going to have that bonnet on. It's going to be the prettiest bonnet I have, and I'm going to walk with this, I'm going to still have that walk that I have down aisle 6. It's still going to be that same smooth operation type thing going on, but you're not going to have it full-fledged as if I was preparing myself for the world. I'm only preparing myself for an errand.
Hilarious.
Huge
she said regardless, her theme song is Brick House. Mike, what's your theme song?
I don't really have a theme song.
You don't?
No.
Oh my gosh, I have a theme song every time I go on stage.
We're going to have to create one for Michael. Let me see. What's a good theme song?
Michael.
I've never
Lady Killer.
I've never
well, not in the physical sense, but
I've never
maybe that wasn't a good choice.
Yeah, I don't know.
Michael, I cannot believe this. So the thing is, I have a theme song when I speak at conferences.
I know.
I got theme songs because we practice me doing my theme song, well, me speaking at conferences. But I have a theme song depending on my look. I have a couple theme songs, so I'm ready. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
socialization has changed based on COVID-19 and generalization changes. Those of us who are old school need not change for people who are not ready to interact at our level. Christine is right.
You do have to make them work for it. Kevin, a little bit of you wants to kind of be up to date, but at the same time, I live off of my old school values.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's who molded me to be who I am. And so I was taught standards and how to set boundaries. So I tend to be one of those people that can keep up with the times, but I always stay true to my beliefs and what has molded me to be the woman that I am. Once you start to lose track of who you are, you've pretty much lost yourself. And so you can't gain someone else while losing yourself.
You can't, but I think also people need to understand they have to manage that. I think a lot of times people feel like when they're getting that level of rejection that they have to change or modify who they are because they're so desperate to be loved or in
Yeah.
some capacity.
Yeah.
So you end up modifying yourself to fit whatever mode you need, especially if you got rejection back to back.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying. That's a part of the blending where you're taking who I am, who I was up to this point, to
Right.
what's going on now,
Right.
and being authentic, in who
In
it is
your
that you are.
Right.
And I think that was the beauty of, I keep plugging this movie, but when the young lady kind of found her niche, it increased her self-esteem, her self-confidence. It didn't bother her that, certain, guys were no longer saying anything to her, because now she found her tribe, so to speak. And I think that it's a part that's key, because you can't really get a clear perspective of who it is that's approaching you, because
Right.
you don't have a clear perspective of who you are. So if you're looking at, well, why would that type of person approach me? And it's like, well, that could be the way, that's the vibe that you're given today. Like she said, Q was specific when she said, well, I go out with my bonnet. So I'm thinking about bonnet. I was like, oh, okay. But not just any bonnet. There's a particular bonnet that I like to wear that she likes. And she began to detail specifically how I look when I'm going on an errand versus just any old, person doing an errand. I think that's what it takes in, all encompassing. Like, don't be afraid to teach people how to treat you. Don't be afraid of how people are approaching you, because we're just a little bit sensitive right now. And so, but you have, the key is you knowing who you are and what you're going to accept and not accept.
Yeah. Walk in your confidence, walk in your light. And those who are supposed to be a part
will be drawn
of your tribe will be a part of that. That's nothing that you have to beg for. It's something that's just going to automatically happen. So a lot of times we tend to try, a little bit harder than we have to for that validation. Like you said, you feel like you need to modify. You're not pretty enough. You're not small enough, or you're not big enough. You're not dark enough. You're not light enough. Your hair isn't long enough. Whatever the case may be, we can all find some imperfections within ourselves. But if we focus on that too much, it could take over, and we can tend to think that everyone sees those same imperfections within us, when it's just really in our own heads.
It is
and
in
so
our
the
heads.
thing is to just to love who you are. Love who you are. Someone loves you in this world. Now, who you may want to love you may not want to, or maybe they just don't know how. But
exactly,
overall, love yourself. And if you're patient and you're kind enough, love will be patient and kind with you. So after
Michael, I don't know. That sounds like Q's closing. I was going to say.
Okay, I'm waiting for the music.
Right, I was ready to start playing the music. Right, right there. So Q, is that your closing remarks right there? Because
that will be my closing remarks.
Okay, so there you go. So Michael, what would you say as we're closing out this episode of 5Fs to Love podcast?
I would say that in light of all this that's happened in the pandemic, don't stress out about dating, falling in love with whom you love, but the key is getting comfortable with who you are and knowing what it is that you want, being your authentic self. And you will find that you don't have to go after likes. Likes will come finding you.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And Kevin says, I agree with Q. The bottom line is water seeks its own level. I love that. And Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us. We need a serious self-love. Many need it. And I love it. No, she says we need a series on self-love. I'm sorry. And many need it. By the way, you guys, I need to kind of wear my glasses, but obviously I haven't put them on. I was trying to be cute tonight because the necklace wasn't popping with the glasses. I just want to be clear. So I just didn't put them on, but I really need to put them on.
That's okay. You're fabulous anyway.
Look, you better leave those likes alone. Go ahead.
Okay, that's right. I need to leave the likes alone because whatever. But Kevin, thank you so much for watching. And Carolyn, thanks so much for watching us as well. I'm going to tell you that life can throw you a bunch of curves. And Gertrude, thank you so much for your continuous support. I really appreciate it. Yes, I agree with you. Mike, thank you for that quote.
Yeah.
Mike, really, you just got a like.
Great quote,
Mike, that was a virtual like. How does that make
great?
you
That
feel?
was wonderful.
I thought the likes will come finding you.
You know what? Don't do it, Mike. Don't do it. She says, Miss Q, I agree with you. And I agree with your statement. So there you got a virtual like.
Oh, well, thank you, my darling. Thank you. Mwah.
Thank you so much, Gertrude, for your feedback, and I appreciate it. So I'm going to say to you guys as we wrap up this episode of 5 F's to Love, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Q, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure. Feel free to come back to the podcast anytime. And folks, as we wrap up this episode of 5 F's to Love, you know, our transition back into dating and relationships is going to definitely shift. And we need to be very conscious and aware of who we are in that space and not modify that. Things are going to shift and turn around for you. Trust me when I say this to you. The right person is going to find you and you're going to be exactly what they're looking for. So just remember, in one moment, someone may disagree, but in the next moment, you could find your one true love. And thanks again for following us and subscribing and watching the show every week here at the 5 F's to Love.
My name is Christine Burkett, the inventor of the 5 F's to Love. This is a compatibility app. It's an app that gives you an opportunity to rate words that start with the letter F in chronological order of importance to you, to help you find your one true love, your soulmate, and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So after you've taken the time to rate your F's in chronological order, you send a link to the person, I don't know, you just met, or the person you've been dating for quite some time. Or maybe it's the person you've been married to for 30 to 40 to 50 years. And then you compare your top 5 F's to find out what things you have in common and things that you may perhaps need to work on. This is taking a simplistic perspective on